Hello, and welcome to the No and Iron podcast. Today, I have Rhonda Murphy from Aware and I. Aware is a charity who help people of all ages with depression and bipolar disorder. They run several support groups as well as delivering mental health and wellbeing programs into institutions such as university. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what Aware and I is?
Yes, Lily. Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for this opportunity. Yep, as you mentioned yourself and alluded to, Aware, we are the depression charity for Northern Ireland. We were established in, 27 years ago now in 1996, and really the only charity in Northern Ireland dedicated exclusively to raising awareness of depression as a serious mental health condition. And we also support individuals, as you said, with anxiety and bipolar disorder. We were set up in Derry actually by an individual who really was struggling to get support for themselves. So it was a personal experience of somebody with depression and bipolar that really got Aware and I off the ground. And I suppose that's kept us going, that kind of passion to ensure others don't suffer as they did. That usually ethos is really key to what we do. So our mission statement really is around raising awareness, trying to reduce the stigma best we can, and certainly get as much information as education as they can in relation to the general public within Northern Ireland, and also making sure that individuals who are affected by depression, bipolar, anxiety have the best access to services that we can. So that's really our mission and our vision around what we try and do. In relation to what I do, my role within Aware is Head of Support Services. And that's a regional post. So my remit really is the responsibility for our 25 support groups that we have, which are peer-led support groups.
And through your time working on mental health projects and your time in Aware, have you noticed any misconceptions of what students would have on mental health?
Um, yeah, it's certainly a tricky time for young people, tricky time for us all these days, actually, with all that's going on in the world. But certainly for our younger people, we would identify that, I suppose how young people feel about how they're being perceived, how they're being understood. That sometimes they feel that actually opening up about having a mental health disorder, maybe feeling low in their mood, feeling anxious, maybe feeling they might be suffering from depression, and how that's perceived, and maybe feeling judged around that. And we know there's unfortunately still is a stigma around mental health. It's better than it was, but it's not as good as it needs to be. So certainly just those questions that we hear young people saying, why am I feeling like this? What's wrong with me? Is it just me? Why is this happening to me? And suppose how they're viewed and how they're treated by others because they feel they may have mental health symptoms or diagnosis. But I suppose we would like to think that the misconceptions they can also have is that, there isn't support for them because they're younger, that support has to be formal. And, suffering from mental health symptoms or having a mental health disorder is a very lonely place to be. And if you don't know what's available, then it can be an extremely isolating place to be. And maybe the fear of reaching out and not knowing what's going to happen once you do reach out and what that looks like. And knowing that it doesn't have to be formal all the time. There's lots of supports and a much more informal and early intervention basis that can help young people. And I suppose that talking does help. There's a misconception that just reaching out to somebody, talking to somebody, it might be a friend, it might be somebody you maybe do or don't know, but actually just taking that first step is very difficult. But it does help and it does make a difference. And I suppose, a big misconception is nobody understands. And, and certainly we wouldn't say wherever you are in your kind of mental health journey or how things are for you, that's personal to you. We acknowledge that. But there is an understanding that people maybe have went through similar issues or a similar journey, not yours, but certainly know what it's like to feel a bit like how you feel. So chatting to somebody does make a difference and getting the right supports. And people can live with anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder very effectively with the right supports. So we'd want that to be something that is a misconception sometimes. It's really important that young people know that there is help and support and things can be difficult, but they can be okay as well. There's supports available for that.
And is there anything you feel that needs to be done to allow those open and honest conversations to happen?
Yeah, I think things are getting better. I think we do live in a culture where we are talking more. Things are more open and transparent and more honest around our mental health. I think COVID helped in some respects that we had a lot of sort of celebrities or well-known ambassadors and different things, influencers, if you like, who have kind of stepped forward and said, listen, I've been struggling. I've been feeling kind of rubbish today. Ambassadors who have spoken up about how things have been for them really can be positive for young people, that they feel that actually it's not just me actually who's struggling with how I'm feeling. Actually, this can happen to anybody, no matter how famous or rich or how good your life appears to be in the surface. Actually, how you feel is how you feel and how things are for you. So that helps. So I think just acknowledging that low mood, feeling anxious, depression, anxiety, all those things can happen at different stages in our lives for different reasons, and they can be a normal part of our life. And our mental health is different from mental illness as well, and that feeling unwell, feeling a bit down, is much more normal than sometimes we think. You know, we can't feel sad unless we feel happy. So some of those feelings can be a normal part of reacting to things in our lives. If we're feeling stressed, we can feel anxious. If we lose somebody close to us, we can feel very sad. So that can be all part of just life itself. And it's just about realizing that as well. And certainly then if things are at a more difficult stage and we feel that we have a diagnosis around mental illness, that we feel we can talk about that. And I do think that the younger generation and younger people are getting better at that. And that's certainly to be encouraged. And that is really helping develop a culture that is more open and honest around mental health for younger people.
And do you think social media has helped in relation to getting people to speak out about mental health?
I think it has helped. I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? With my experience and what young people tell us. I mean, and social media can be a great way of reaching out and of hearing of all people's experiences. It also can be a very difficult situation that, you know, it's life through your lens 24/7 for young people. It's hard to get away from bad news stories. It's hard to get away from how things are in the world and all the stuff that's been happening. I mean, COVID was a prime example of that. I mean, you couldn't turn on a TV, put a news channel on, put your phone on, put anything on. That things were very dark and gloomy, and things can be as well. So social media can exacerbate that. It also can put young people under lots of pressure with all kind of fake news and, you know, this kind of Kardashian culture, as I call it sometimes, that you have to look perfect and things have to be brilliant. And, you know, and that can put a lot of pressure on young people around having to be this perfect sort of scenario, which we know isn't real life. So it has its uses and it has its advantages, but we just have to be mindful of, you know, how young people, you know, expose themselves on social media. Be very mindful of their kind of echo chamber around what they listen to, what they be part of, you know, being able to turn things off, mute things. So it's just being aware of how social media, how you feel when you watch something or how you're part of something, and is that a good feeling or is that something that's not so good for you? So it's a sense of that.
What would you say to any students who feel like they've been caught into an echo chamber of, you know, a lot of negative stuff?
Yeah, I would advise them to you know, think about what is that? What part of social media is doing that for them? Is it a channel they're listening to? Is it an influencer who's not very influential in some way? Is it a particular social media platform that's really not working for them? And if it's not, then they need to, you know, really cut that part out of their life actually, and be aware that there are lots of other channels that they can be involved in, or all our social media platforms that are much more positive. And also then to acknowledge that how they're feeling, and then to maybe reach out and chat to somebody else about it. Chat to a friend, chat to a colleague, chat to a parent about how they're feeling, and know that actually, you know, and doing something, I suppose, that makes them feel better, listening to music, going out for a walk, calling a friend, going to the gym, doing something that they know is going to improve their mood and not reduce their mood and make them feel worse than they do feel. Yeah.
And I sort of read that one of your hopes in a way is to see a future where people can talk about their mental health openly and access services appropriate to their needs, as well as having skills and knowledge to maintain positive mental health. What would need to be done to achieve this?
Well, some of the things we chatted about around, I think we all have a responsibility, as citizens or humans within the kind of society, to be able to talk openly and be more accepting and reduce the stigma. I think the more we talk and the more we open up and speak to our loved ones, speak to our children in our workplace, ask people how they're doing. If they're having a bit of a difficult day, acknowledge that and not ignore that. So I think we all are responsible. I think that really helps. I think also about, if you're having a difficult day, what can I do to help myself around that? We know the 5 steps of well-being are really key to that, about connecting with each other, talking, taking notice of how you're feeling, being active. I mean, physical activity. Research will tell us that having some physical activity in our life is more powerful than taking antidepressant medication, and sometimes we only need both. But it certainly makes a huge difference of being active. And so I think one of the main things is knowing how you feel, and if you're feeling different, and what you can do to support that amongst yourselves, and also knowing what help is available, and knowing what we do, for instance, at Aware, and knowing what's in your local community, and how you can access support there as well.
And what sort of services would you recommend to students suffering from, say, depression or bipolar disorder?
Well, in relation to what we offer, Lily, I suppose I would encourage any young people listening, or anybody, young adults, to have a Google, how we nosy on our website, actually at Aware. And we offer, as I say, we have our support groups in 25 locations throughout Northern Ireland. They're 18 plus. So young people are really welcome to come along. They're facilitated by volunteers who have experience of having difficult times themselves. So people who've lived experience. So they've walked that mile. They've lived those shoes up for a while. So they have some acknowledgement of how it feels to suffer from some mental health difficulties, and they'll be very welcomed. It's a very informal but a very supportive environment. As I say, they can just turn up. They don't have to have a referral. They don't have to let us know. Just go on our website, find out where their nearest support group is. They can email in or phone in advance, and we'll get a wee chat to them. The facilitator can meet them before the group starts, if that is helpful, just as a wee bit of hurdle help or a wee bit of nurturing around that. So that's one thing that I would encourage students to do for some support. Also, we have a range of lovely programs, which are, some are online, some are face-to-face. We have a Living Life to the Full program, which is a 6-week program based around cognitive behavioural therapy strategies. So it's a really nice way of a person looking at your thoughts, feelings, and your actions, and how your thoughts can really impact on how you feel, actually, and how to kind of almost look at that cycle, and how we all want to feel good. We all want to feel better. And actually, the only person that can do that is us. And CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, looks at how we can do that and support ourselves around that. So that's a lovely way of linking in. That's all on our website. With mindfulness programs, Lily, we offer Mood Matters for Young People, which is a 1.5-hour workshop that young people can link into. So there's lots of online resources, and there's also face-to-face groups that they can link in, which is a nice way of doing it maybe at a lower level. But certainly there's lots of going to your GP if you're feeling well, and linking in maybe with mental health teams. So there are ways. Unfortunately, waiting lists, we know, are lengthy for services. So the community and voluntary sector really are able to pick up and support young people and individuals much quicker, quite often, as I say, and support them. You could still be maybe sitting waiting for more formal statues, supporting a waiting list, but in between times you're still feeling a bit rotten, you're not feeling so good. So that's not going to go away just because you're sitting in a waiting list. So you need something here now. So absolutely. And a thing about it is as well, if we can't support you directly, if maybe there's something specific going on for you, we will signpost you, and we will look at your near support that maybe is more, maybe your issues are around a particular area. Maybe it's around eating disorder, it might be around domestic violence, it might be around addictions. So whilst we're not a specialist in those areas, we would certainly try and link young people into maybe the most appropriate service for them at that particular time in their life, and their issues.
And what would you say to those who would be almost hesitant to come for help? They might think, oh, my problems aren't as big as other people's, or like, this is just it's not that bad. What would you say to those people?
That to me is exactly when you need to be reaching out. It's what we would say is an early intervention approach to looking after yourself as early as possible. And if you can identify that maybe you're not sleeping so good, your appetite's not great, you're maybe not attending, you're just not keen to go out with your pals, or you're not really having a great time, or your concentration's not so good, but you're studying, you're just lacking a bit of motivation and energy. Those are maybe early signs that maybe you are feeling overstressed, that your mood's not great. And that's the best time, Lily, to kind of reach out and get a bit of support. and you'll be more than welcome to get support and advice around that. We would really encourage individuals, people and young people, if that's how you're feeling and you think, oh gosh, it's not so bad. And that's great if it's not so bad, actually. But we know that things can fester and things can roll on and things can get a bit worse. And then you're getting to a stage that, you're feeling worse. And then you really do need to reach out. And then you maybe lack the notion and motivation at that stage to reach out when things are getting worse for you. And having a chat about how you're feeling, and acknowledging that would always be welcomed as early as possible.
And is there anything else you would like to add?
I suppose, I suppose, and I kind of, in a kind of rounded way, I suppose, I think that, young people are so key in so many ways. And I suppose at Aware particularly, we really want to be able to support as many younger people as we can. And we know that, reaching out is difficult. There's no doubt about that. And we know that some people come along to our groups would say, once they're there and they know how supportive it is, it's great. It's getting to that stage of opening the door and making that first step. So we would really encourage you to get a chat to us, on a very informal basis. Our staff actually and our volunteers have been in a place where they found difficulty, so they really know how it feels to feel how you're feeling in some respects. So we have that empathy and we have that approach and we have that acknowledgement, which I think is really important as well. The lived experience thing really does make a difference. And we're also, we're always looking for volunteers for our services. If a young person wants to volunteer, wants to come along somewhere fundraising events, with some lovely things coming up, that can be a nice way of just kind of dipping your toe in the water a wee bit as well. But certainly getting a chat to us can be a first line of contact. And you also, any of our groups or any of our programs, you can bring somebody with you, bring a friend with you, bring your mum or your dad or a friend or a colleague. Link in with your wellbeing officer in your uni or your college, because quite often they would also be a range of support. But I suppose if things aren't so great, talk to somebody, reach out, know there's support there. And, things, I suppose the message there always is, things can get better and difficult times don't always last forever. So we would try and give a positive message across around that.
And final question, what would you hope to achieve in the next 5 years?
Well, organisationally, in relation to Aware, we're probably at a stage just with it's a difficult financial climate, as we all know just now. So we've certainly are taking stock, and we'd really like over the next 5 years to be able to roll out more young adult support groups in all areas and regionally, and to take that forward, and also look at our younger teenagers as well and how we can support them, possibly with a peer support type model. So we acknowledge that, particularly post-COVID, and we know that mental health needs for young people is rising and it's becoming more of an issue, and we know that. So we're trying to get ahead of that curve a bit and to support that best we can. So that's one of our plans that we've lots of other ambitious plans, but in relation to young adults and young people, we certainly, we'd want young people to reach out to us and telling us what they want. With a young adult committee, which we are just set up and Aware, any young people who are out about and listening who want to get involved more with our organisation, to let us know what they need, because we need young people to tell us what they need so we can design our future for them. So we would really welcome any young volunteers to help us to co-design our strategic development for the next 5 years.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for coming on to this episode. Till next time, stay tuned and we'll talk later.